Clayton Daniels.
Clay said he planned to start a new life with Molly and the children after the $100,000 life insurance payment arrived.
You can count on the support of small-town neighbors in the wake of tragedy. Clayton and Molly Daniels sure did. After the former's car was found burned with an unrecognizable body inside, the widow received $110,000 in life insurance. She got additional assistance from friends in Baerten County, Texas. Well, it wasn't long before Molly took an eerily familiar-looking boyfriend named Jake. It was actually Clayton, who was in financial and legal troubles after violating the terms of his probation for sexual assault. He and Molly eventually confessed to faking his death with the exhumed body of Charlotte Davis. The Danielses were sentenced to decades behind bars for their unsettling, never mind poorly planned scheme.
Molly insisted she knew nothing about Clay faking his own death until he came home one day about a month after the fire and told her what he had done.
She just tried to portray it like she didn't know that he was alive until he just called her out of the blue about a month later and said, "Hey baby, I'm alive."
Lord Lucan.
From what we'd seen going through the house, I suspected that the statement made by Lady Lucan may have been true. We may be looking for a body.
There are many questions surrounding John Bigham, 7th Earl of Lucan, including whether he is still alive. Death certainly befell his estate on the 7th of November 1974. The family nanny, Sandra Rivet, was murdered, with Lady Lucan claiming that her husband admitted to the act before attacking her. The suspect left behind letters disputing the scenario as he disappeared the following morning.
The police believe Lucan left the Claremont Club and drove straight to Lower Belgrave Street, a journey they acknowledge takes between 7 and 12 minutes to commit the murder.
His car was later found abandoned with a note suggesting Lucan's intent to take his own life. However, the investigation found no evidence of his death. Lucan was later convicted of homicide in absentia and legally declared dead in 1999. Whatever really became of the already disgraced British aristocrat, his legacy is tied to at least one terrible tragedy.
Did the Eton Mafia get him out? Is he still alive?
David Baerten. TikTok stunts often get a bit carried away. At least nobody was harmed in the most infamous prank by Belgian influencer David Baerten, aka Ragnar LeFou. Well, not physically harmed anyway. In 2023, Baerten's wife and kids shared heartbreaking tributes to his life and arranged a funeral. The solemn event was ultimately disrupted by Baerten himself and a camera crew showing up in a helicopter. The stunt became such a sensation that a helicopter became a signature of Baerten's brand. It was initially just meant to put his friends and loved ones' feelings for him into perspective. Despite the iconic imagery of Baerten embracing relieved mourners, this disturbing deception probably didn't elevate most people's opinion of him.
David Baerten, 45, said he wanted to see who really cared about him and who would show up at his funeral. He said he was a little disappointed that only about half of his family bothered to show up.
Timothy Dexter. A great businessman always considers his public image and ultimate legacy, though not usually like Lord Timothy Dexter did. What the 18th century American entrepreneur lacked in education was made up for with eccentric enterprises. This included arranging his own wake in 1793 just to see how many people would show up.
We are reminded of his kindness, his generosity, his buoyancy of spirit.
Some 3,000 mourners were shocked when the supposed deceased crashed the event. Even more shocking was when he attacked his wife for not crying over his death. We can assume that fewer people attended Dexter's legitimate funeral 13 years after this scandal, but as infamous as he was in life, his luck in business isn't what he's best known for in two deaths. Arkady Babchenko.
His explanation was that he didn't have a choice.
Пожалуйста, друзья мои, сохраняйте этику, моральную чистоту своей профессии. Я предпочел вариант выжить.
Russian military vet and war correspondent Arkady Babchenko became notorious for criticizing his nation's government in the 2010s. A year after moving to Kiev to work for ATR, he was reportedly shot dead outside his home. Russian intelligence quickly denied accusations of involvement when Babchenko appeared at a press conference the next day. It turns out that he and the Security Service of Ukraine staged his death to weed out an alleged conspiracy to actually assassinate the journalist.
They're not very happy about it. They're describing this incident as propaganda, as an anti-Russian provocation. And Michael, you can bet they're going to use this.
This bizarre sting operation and even its results are still shrouded in mystery, to say nothing of controversy. In 2019, Babchenko relocated to Israel, where he continues to openly condemn the actions of the Kremlin.
I sat wrapped in a sheet, he said, and then watched the news about what an amazing guy I was.
John Darwin. It was a plot that could only work in a soap opera. In 2002, British couple John and Anne Darwin were in serious debt when the former supposedly drowned in a canoeing accident. The insurance company paid out a life-changing £250,000.
Mr. Darwin's waterproof jacket was found, a paddle, and finally his kayak broken into 3 pieces. But never Mr. Darwin himself.
5 years later, John entered a London police station claiming to have been missing with amnesia. The scheme promptly fell apart when a photograph revealed that the Darwins were looking to buy property in Panama. They were sentenced to 6 years in prison in order to compensate the insurance company. They also got divorced and were disowned by their children, who were not in on the scam. There were consequences to being greedy, particularly when elaborating a wild scheme.
I accept that you, John, were the driving force behind the whole scheme. But that you and Darwin were central to the fraud's success.
Aubrey Lee Price.
He's a thief, and he's a liar.
Baptist preacher and banker Aubrey Lee Price spent years cultivating trust in the community of Lyons, Georgia. After a failed Ponzi scheme cost his bank more than $70 million, he distributed letters admitting to swindling clients and a plan to take his own life. But the real strange story came to light when Lee was found alive 18 months later.
His next known public sighting was Tuesday when he was arrested for a traffic violation. He told local deputies, "Sit down. I'm going to make you famous."
While hiding out in Florida, he sold drugs, made fake IDs, and guarded sex workers. Not such a holy man after all. The pastor of many callers returned to Georgia in 2014 and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. He was also ordered to pay $51 million to his victims.
Bethay says Price told him there was relief when the law finally caught up with him.
I remember saying, "Lord, where are you?" And then I looked up and there were blue lights behind me.
Sharaban K. Her identity unpublished by the order of the German court, Sharaban K. was desperate to escape her troubled family and marriage, but there was no justification for the Iraqi-German beauty blogger's plan to fake her death. She and a male associate tracked down and murdered Khadija O. just because she resembled Shaharaban. It was not long before authorities identified the victim and arrested her killers. Sharaban was ultimately sentenced to life in prison for homicide, as well as for attempting to hire a hitman to kill her brother-in-law. She may not have gotten far with her terrible death fraud scheme, but the very real doppelganger murder was a huge media event. Aleister Crowley.
They took everything. But at least my name was scrawled across the tabloids. The world knew I still existed.
There seems to be no end to creepy stories with libertine occultist Aleister Crowley, even surrounding his posthumous influence. The self-proclaimed prophet even rose from the dead beforehand, more or less. During a trip to Lisbon in 1930, he disappeared in the chasm Boca de Inferno, translated to English as Mouth of Hell. Fernando Pessoa claimed to be the witness to his fellow writer's demise. 3 weeks later, Crowley turned up at his own art exhibition in Berlin. It may not have been his most imaginative magic trick, but it might be his most notorious. Such eccentric exploits made Crowley an unlikely cult figure for generations, to follow his actual death in 1947.
Crowley's attempts to establish a new religion left him bankrupt, friendless, and physically wrecked. But he has left an extraordinary legacy of a life pushed to the absolute limit.
Irfan Ifi Khan. Not to be mistaken for the late, great actor, social media influencer Irfan Khan did have his cult fan base. Then he went properly viral in the most disturbing way, with a skit in which he steps in front of a train after being rejected by a woman. The appropriately nicknamed Ifi Khan briefly embraced the rumors that this graphic act was unstimulated. After revealing that he was alive and deleting the video, he was arrested. Among the charges were endangerment of himself and others and incitement of self-harm. While that was definitely not Khan's intention, his method for exposure was not effective in the manner he anticipated. After all, faking one's death is a disturbing stunt under any circumstance.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.